Hello and welcome to this very special interview. Joining me today is someone who really needs no introduction. He still looks very, very young. He is young, but at the same time, it would be fair to call him the doyen of the real estate sector. Anuj Puri, who's the chairman of Anarock, more than 35 years of experience in the real estate sector. Anuj, it's always a pleasure talking to you. I must say one thing that, have known you for many years, seen you go through long cycles of a bearish market and yet smile. Uh, and so therefore, it's not surprising that in this bull market, you are smiling. But my first question, one has waited a long time for this. And what kind of bull run are we seeing? All the research reports that are coming out of Anarock are all indicating a one-way, upside really to the real estate sector at this point of time. So just want to understand from you, do you see this continuing? How many more legs does this bull run have?
First of all, Vivek, thank you very much. As always, absolute pleasure to be with you on the screen. To an extent, Vivek, I would say it's an honor to be on the screen with you. It's absolutely. I've seen you do several shows, and clearly the shows that you do, Vivek, are very intense and very educative. So
thank you.
It is, and that's why I say it's an honor to be on your show. It is true, Vivek, both you and I have seen a number of cycles. It does give us our age away, but we've seen a number of these cycles, and this one does seem to be a little bit more, sustainable, a little bit more having legs than the earlier ones. And the reason that I say, Vivek, is that if the economy stays as strong as what we're looking at, particularly the Indian economy, then, hopefully the real estate on the residential side will continue to stay strong. If the global economy goes into a deep recession and perhaps a prolonged recession, then my guess is, I'm not an economist. You are much better at this, Vivek, but I do feel is the Indian economy will get impacted at that stage, and as a result of which the real estate sector will get impacted. Certainly, if the tech companies in the US go slow and layoffs start in large numbers, it will have ramification in the job market on the tech side in India, and it can create nervousness. At this moment in time, we are, however, not seeing that happen. But I do want to start with that caveat is that if it was going to happen, then we may see nervousness within the Indian residential real estate market. On the commercial market, Vivek will perhaps not go too much deep into it today, but it is a market where I would put an asterisk and say it is a market that one needs to watch out for. But today we're going to discuss more residential. So I feel why it is different is this time is there are sort of 5 or 6 things that are going well, and hence this market may sustain the growth. First, unlike the previous cycles, which were largely based on freebies, which were largely based on sort of a lot of the gimmicks that the developers were doing to boost up the sales, this one is not. It's fundamentally very, very strong. No subvention schemes. You remember in Noida, where you're based, Vivek. There were a lot of these schemes that were coming up, and one. Yes, sales is happening, but really this is not sustainable sale because these are all sort of gimmicks that are being done by the developers to entice, the home buyer. So this one is not based on that. Second is that this is all end user. Oh. It is not a speculator here. It is not an investor. This is all sort of being led by end user. Third is that unlike in the past, Vivek, where the prices were just running up, this time the developers have balanced fear and greed very well. So, they are not increasing the price until such time that they are being able to cross the financial closure through the home buyer's money. They have debt that is lined up, but they're not wanting to take debt. They are saying is, let us go out and sell as much as we can. I mean, look at the way DLF did its Arbor launch. It's $1 billion that they did the sale. I mean, it is fantastic. And they didn't hold back. They said, is if we can sell 100% on day one, let's go ahead and sell 100% on day one, which previously would have been, no, let's sell 30, 40%. And then increase the price after 6 months, then sell another 20, 30%. And then toward the end of the project, you deliver the balance. So that is how the prices were going up. This time they are like, let's get everything. If we can sell on day one, let's go ahead and sell on day one. We want cash flows, which are more important rather than necessarily appreciation in the pricing. The fourth one is that the affordability index, and it's an important point, Vivek, is at its 20-year low. Whilst the prices have slightly gone up, mortgage rates have gone up, but the income levels have gone up faster than the increase in the home prices or the mortgage rates. As a result of which, when you would look at the ability of the person to pay the EMI, the index, which we call it as affordability index, is at its 20-year low. So 2004 was the same index where we are today. And then finally, there is a social security angle that has come in this time, which wasn't there earlier, where the home buyer is saying is, I'm not sure that I necessarily want to rent it out. Through this COVID, I've seen is at least the roof over my head needs to be owned by me. And then also many cities, many societies in those cities differentiated between a tenant and an apartment owner. If you were a tenant, stricter rules, which means your house help, friends, relatives couldn't come in. If you were an apartment owner, they would allow through COVID these to come in, because they felt is that the apartment owner is more responsible to the neighbors, and hence they'll be more careful than necessarily a tenant. And tenants haven't liked it. They've said, look, we're not going to be sort of treated as a second-grade citizen, so we want to buy on our own. And then that social security angle where the parents are asking the kids that go ahead and buy, where the spouses are forcing their partners to go out and buy, that is where we are starting to see this purchase happen. So I do feel that we don't have speculators. This is end user. This is more sustainable. Prices are not going up. Affordability is still at its 20-year low. And on top of it, after COVID, the social security angle is what is creating this compulsion to buy.
Anuj, these are all issues, if I remember correctly, you used to flag about 25 years ago. And one of the things that always, you would mention was the end user piece, and that how the, market was a speculator's market. And I was reading one of your research reports, which says that the end user has gone up, the proportion and the ratio has gone up to over 70% now. And I don't think in your career you've seen that kind of a, jump. What does this mean for residential prices going further? You did mention that, they have gone up in certain markets. But do you see a further upside given the supply-demand situation at this point?
So interesting, Vivek, it is true. I have not seen this market to be so heavily led by end users. It used to be led by, I would say, investors, speculators. Today maybe only sort of 15%, 20%, and that also by investors, not speculators. So speculators are completely out of the market, which is the good thing, because they were the ones, who would create bad blood in the system. Speculators do not expect that the price rise is going to be that stark over the next 12, 18 months, as a result of which they're not wanting to play in this entire game, and it will continue to be led by the end user. In terms of the price rise, my thought is that this will be range bound between 6 to 9%. That's because the increase in the input cost is what the developer is willing to pass on to the buyer. The developer is not necessarily wanting to increase the margin, and I'll put an asterisk there, and I'll sort of come back to that statement once again. But at this moment in time, the developer is saying is that additional input cost due to inflation, increase in labor cost or steel or cement, that I need to pass it on to the home buyer, which is where it ranges between 6 to 9%. So going forward, my thought is that it'll be over the next 12 months, 6 to 9%, depending on which micro market or which city you are in. Where I put the asterisk is, Vivek, is the prices will go up more than 6 to 9%, where either the project has got completed, so these are ready to be sold units, and the financial closure, there is no more money to be spent on the development, and hence the developer can wait and sell it at his or her own comfort, or a development where the financial closure has happened through the home buyer's money. That means that they have sold enough inventory that even if they were not to sell any more inventory, the money that they're going to receive from the buyers to whom they have sold the units will be sufficient to complete the project. That's when the developer starts to increase the price, because then he knows he's home, basically. So there is no problem in being able to increase the price. But other than that, I think is that the journey is going to be largely passing on the inflation to the home buyer, not necessarily greed setting in ahead of the fear with these developers.
So you're saying the greed quotient has come down. I remember when we did panel discussions, all the developers would pounce on me. You were the only one who defended. They would not acknowledge the fact that they were being greedy for the prices. I mean, they would say land is responsible, X is responsible. But what you are seeing is that the greed element has gone down, and it's a more sensible, probably maybe the right word to use, that there is enough demand, and that really seems to be. And the project that I think you were talking about was where a fairly high-priced apartment had a long line outside on day one. And so there is demand. But I think the point you're making is the greed element has gone down, and that's all falling into place. But is this bull run, Anuj, confined more to the big cities? Because all the research reports that I read say top 8 cities, top 14 cities, or is it also going beyond the top cities?
So, Vivek, two things. I'll just continue from the last point that you said is, I also think is that, greed is a lot more tempered because this is very good quality developers left in the business. There's a huge amount of consolidation, and not only during COVID, I think before that as well, the demonetization, GST, RERA, and then, the debt crisis that started with the ILFS debacle. All that has led to a huge amount of consolidation. So as a result of which, the players on the development side who are left are very pedigreed guys. So they know how to run institutional business. And that's what they are really doing it, rather than, what we had was sort of mavericks coming out from woodworks and, trying to, do developments without really understanding. These are very mature players. A lot of them are listed. They have a huge amount of legacy. They have sort of brand value. As a result of it, I don't think that there is going to be a sort of unbound greed that will set in. I hope it doesn't set in going forward. At least today, there isn't. As far as your second question is concerned, is this more sort of profound in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities as well, or is it only largely the euphoria is limited to tier 1? It is more profound, and it is deeper into the smaller cities as well. And Vivek, why it happened is that during COVID, there was reverse migration that happened. And during that period, we saw tier 2, tier 3 cities do exceptionally well, where all these guys went back to their hometowns and they were working remotely from these hometowns. And work from home has played pretty well. And we're seeing, many people still continue, despite COVID has retreated, gone away, yet many people still continue to work remote. And as a result of which, they are investing back in their sort of places where they are living in their hometowns, or that they have come back to tier 1 cities, but saying is, we really enjoyed when we were living back in our hometown. So let's go ahead and let's buy something. there. And in these cities, Vivek, also good quality developers have emerged, whether they're local developers from that city or from larger cities going into those cities. For example, I'll give you Vivek, Lucknow at this moment in time doing exceptionally well. And it is because it has one, good quality developers that it's attracted from NCR, from national, and the sort of obviously the government machinery has done exceptionally well. The businesses are doing very well. Plus, also a lot of the reverse migration that had happened during the time of COVID enjoyed to see the infrastructure in the city, to see the social fabric, as a result of it, wanting to invest back in that city. So to answer your question, it is a lot more deeper than just a tier one phenomena of the euphoria that we are seeing in the residential real estate market.
One final question, Anuj. What about rentals? I mean, you made the point about people wanting increasingly to buy, and that's being reflected in the sales numbers. But simultaneously, one is seeing rentals, at least in certain pockets. I mean, NCR, which has been one of your favorite markets because you come from here, has been seeing a sharp rise in rentals. How do you see that continuing? And, again, I'm asking from, say, an investor point of view, from a rental yield point of view, how do you see those dynamics playing out?
So rentals have sharply increased, Vivek. Bangalore has benefited with the increase in the rental. NCR, these two cities have definitely benefited hugely with the sharp increase in the residential rental rates. Having said that, the rental yields are still range bound between 2 to 3%. So whilst I would say before COVID, they were more hovering towards the 2%, and they've now gone up to 3%. But Vivek, it is still not very meaningful from an investor's point of view. Because 3% yield, it does not make any meaningful sense to buy residential for rent. I think where these investors are buying today, and that's why speculators are not coming in, they are buying today is either for capital appreciation. To say is that we do feel is that there's going to be 7, 8, 9% capital appreciation year on year. And if you add rental yield to the capital appreciation, it can be 10, 11, 12%. So one is that there is a leap of faith that there is going to be a capital appreciation in the product. Or second is, Vivek, that they are buying today to rent it out, but ultimately that the family is going to grow and we are actually going to use this. And that is where we're seeing some sort of investors come in. Otherwise, yes, the yields have gone up from 2% to perhaps 3%, but still dismally low when you compare it with more mature markets, the US, the Europe, there you're talking of 4.5%, 5%. And, if you lever there, you can get in sort of 6, 7, 8%. After leveraging. For us, leveraging doesn't make sense because you're at 2-3% yield. Your home loan rates are at 8.5%, 9%. So it's a negative arbitrage. For them, it is a positive arbitrage, which increases the levered yield. So I think we're sort of far away from, those mature economies who are being able to provide the sort of rental residential yields. And that's when, rental housing, Vivek, becomes an institution. That's when you get private equity buying these large blocks of residential to rent it out. In India, we haven't yet approached that because the yields are still low, whilst the rents have gone up, but still not meaningfully increasing the yields. Now, one may say is that 2% to 3% is like a 50% increase in the yield. It is, but at 3% also, it does not make any meaningful sense for an investor to come in.
Sure. Always a pleasure talking to you, Anuj. I wish you all the very best, and I look forward to many more such conversations. Lots happening in the real estate sector. Can't think of anyone better than you to, decode it for millions of viewers who are keen on this sector. Thank you very much for taking time out from your busy schedule. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek.